Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, greetings, greetings to all. On behalf of Imam Tariq El-Amin, the resident Imam of Masjid Al-Taqwa, as well as the Talim Committee, chaired by Dr. Aisha El-Amin, and committee members, Dr. Lionel Allen, Sister Rashida Fitzpatrick, and myself, I welcome you to today's Talim. And so before we actually get started, I'd like to first open with Al-Fatiha. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, the merciful benefactor, merciful redeemer, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and those who go not astray. Ameen, ameen, ameen. So today's topic and presenter, first of all, our presenter is very familiar to most of us and who are regulars on this channel. The phenomenal Dr. Constance Shabazz, and who is a physician. She's an innovator, she's a visionary, and she's also the co-founder of Salam Community Wellness Center. And today's topic is peace of mind, health, and wellness, building strong communities, and of course presented by our wonderful Dr. Constance Shabazz. So I just like to thank you, Dr. Shabazz, for coming on and sharing your wisdom, sharing your insights about healthcare, and particularly for today's topic, because we're talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that involves mental health and wellness. So, Dr. Shabazz, welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I want to thank the Talim Committee for asking me to be a part of today's presentation. And, you know, when you're doing work like so many of us are doing with regards to the health and wellness of our communities, sometimes, you know, you need to step back and really take a look and see, you know, where are you really making a difference in communities? And so this is an opportunity, I think, for us to talk a little bit about, first of all, how we came to the point where we are with the Salam Community Wellness Center. But I'm going to start going way, way back. Some of you all know, or some you don't know, a little bit of history of me. I'm from Chicago. I happened to grow up in the Chatham community, spent about half of my life there. And that happened to be the community where the Nation of Islam established a lot of the businesses. And as a child, you know, I knew my mother was very, how would you say, proactive in terms of her belief that, you know, Black people needed to have their own things. And so I recall an incident where, you know, we heard about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Nation of Islam trying to establish a hospital just blocks away from us, and at the Cole, what's now known as Cole Park. And I remember somebody coming to our house and ringing the doorbell and asking my mother to sign a petition against the building of that hospital. And that really stuck with me all these years, you know. Probably I was like maybe 10, 11, 12, whatever. And I really didn't realize what that impact meant at that time. But I do now know the impact that it has had. That particular park just recently was in the news for some shooting there. I remember not too long ago when a young police officer was shot in his father's driveway right across the street from that park. So it has a sordid history, but, you know, thinking back, you know, wonder what it would have been like in that community if that hospital had been established. And so fast forward, you know, like I said, from Chicago, you know, went to several undergraduate programs, took a hiatus to go to New York. And how I got there was I heard about and saw on TV these two African-American female pediatricians who had established a sickle cell clinic. And I was so intrigued. I love the sciences. I really hadn't even thought about medicine as a career, but I decided, I'm going to go there and I'm going to work with these women. Now, mind you, this was all pre-internet. Okay. And so picking up some bags and, moving to New York on a whim like that was really, really, I guess it was out the box, but I just felt so moved by what they were doing because they established this program as a result of seeing so many of their own patients dying in early age from sickle cell disease. And for those of you all who know, sickle cell, particularly at that time, was like, HIV. People thought as soon as they got the diagnosis that it meant that it was a death knell for them. So I showed up these folks' doorstep at their office, and it took me a while to find them. Again, this was pre-internet. They weren't even listed in the yellow book. So, I called around and searched these people down and showed up. And they were like, you came from Chicago to work here. I said, yeah, So I actually started out as a volunteer with no money. But I was really so enamored with these two women because I didn't know until I got their story. They were maybe the number 3 and 4 or 2 and 3 Black females who had been admitted to and graduated from Yale's medical school. So that it itself was a task because for many years they weren't accepting any women. And here these Black women were such high achievers that they were able to get into the medical school. And they came back to the community to serve the community. In fact, one of them developed a panel of blood tests to test for sickle cell 20 years before the major medical institutions adopted that. So she was way ahead of the time. So it was that inspiration, having the opportunity, not just to be around these fantastic women practitioners, but more importantly, to see the work that they were doing. Because a lot of the work I ended up doing with them was outreach, going out into the community, testing people. I don't know how many thousands of people I tested throughout New York and educating people. And that really sealed the deal for me. I said, I see myself as melding my mother, who was an educator in the Chicago public school system, and my love for the sciences, educating people, but also providing direct services. So fast forward, I had the opportunity to work for the Elijah Muhammad Memorial Health Center for a year as I was applying for medical school, finished SIU medical school, came back and started working primarily in community health centers around the Chicago area. And subsequently, I went back to school, got a couple of other degrees, okay, and still, as I tell people, I still have the student loans to show you. They're not paid off yet. But I've always had a passion for working with community health centers. So in 2020, when COVID hit, and I'm sure many of you all remember how we all felt this sense of desperation, reached out to people like Dr. Gloria, Dr. Madju, and others who, felt the same way that I did, that, we needed to do something. And the do something was to not just establish any health center, but one that was going to be culturally responsive to our people, because we know that historically African Americans have been very, very mistreated in the system. And so therefore, a lot of times, including the fact that many of us don't have the kind of insurance that would allow us to get the best care. There are a dearth of not mental, but both that too, but physical and mental medical facilities particularly on the South Side. If you drive like from Stony Island, 95th Street, all the way to, 57th or so, before you got that turn there at Stony, when you count the number of health facilities, be it hospitals, health centers, doctor's office, there's no way that those offices, those hospitals can meet the needs of the South Side, particularly the Southeast East Side. So it's disheartening when you see that the people in the greatest need have the least amount of resources. So we also wanted to be sure that we're not denying people based on their ability to pay the access to what we know. And that's the beauty about our group, which includes our boards, includes our practitioners and our supporters, that we knew and still know that many of the modalities that are effective are not Western born. Okay, this healthcare or health and wellness, the health practice itself is obviously, it's, thousands and thousands of years ago. And we have so many modalities that come from different cultures. And so we wanted to make sure that we offer all of these things that we could, within reason, for people in communities that oftentimes were denied this, either for insurance or just lack of education, So we wanted to make sure that we had both a culturally responsive and integrative model. That doesn't mean that we're alternative, which is defining that means either or. We use them in a complementary manner because we know that there are very valuable aspects of Western medicine. Oftentimes it's the way it's delivered. Oftentimes it's just this emphasis on one type of therapy, either using medications or using some interventional type of medicine. So we wanted to make sure that we did that. But one thing we also realized dealing with our communities, and this is where we get to the Peace of Mind health and wellness program. And I recall early on, Dr. Gloria, you mentioned, you said, you're always going to have to include the mental health. And unless we do that, we knew that we were not going to be able to deal with any individual's physical health issues. But we also took it one step further in that we understood that the mental health oftentimes is predicated on those social environmental things. We call them the social determinants of health. Now, what is that? Well, that's the environment that you are born in, that you live, that you grow, that you are educated in, that you work in. All of these things that have competing priorities to things like you're taking care of your physical and mental health. So what we have been designing over the past couple of years, and I'll share with you a story about what really motivated us to launch this. About a year or so ago, we had an event at Salam Community Wellness Center. We were fortunate enough to receive donation from the CIOG, the Council on Islamic Organizations of Greater Chicago, and they were giving away what they call winter kits, and they consist of a jacket, hat, gloves, scarf, and socks. And so we set up our waiting room area to give out these items. And we had so many brothers and sisters who, some of them I recognized just from our daily back and forth at the health center. And we have these beautiful, plate glass windows, big windows, so you can see people, so it's almost like they're walking into your health center, but you would see them just walking by, it just not even seeming to recognize that they're walking by a health center, but some of these same people who never walked through the door started coming in just because there was such a need for what we were giving away. Fast forward, we did the same thing. Back in December, I know Dr. Shana was one of our folks who was with us, and I remember her asking me, did you put anything out on the internet? And I said, no. I said, we had no signs out, we had no flyers out, we had no posters. I went next door to the laundromat that's there, and I told a couple of people, I said, hey, we're giving away stuff. In about 3 hours, we gave away, when you add up all the different items, like even in the winter kits, about 1,000 items. And so we realized once again, or we reminded, I should say, that the need was so great in the community. That's what was keeping them from coming in and addressing their health care. So this idea about the Peace of Mind, health and wellness pop-up came up last year. We had some issues that came up didn't have enough money, didn't have this, but you know, Allah Alam, he always supplies you with what you need when you need it. And so we were fortunate enough back in October to have received a grant of $5,000. And we pitched to this organization, it's called SBB Research, the idea about this pop-up. And the concept of the pop-up is that we would have a health and wellness gathering or event at different locations right now within the Woodline community. And so we're actually going to have our first one, inshallah, on Thursday, the 20th of June. So the idea is that we're going to have physical and mental health screenings. We already have committed some mental health practitioners who are going to be doing some screenings of our community members or attendees. Then we're going to have other providers of resources. So we've invited provider or organizations that provide things like job skills training, employment opportunities. We're offering information on affordable housing because we, during that giveaway back in December, we were fortunate enough as people were standing in line to, you know, get the coats, and we were giving away children's blankets also, that they filled out a survey, and we got 54 respondents. And the top 3 things that they said that they needed were affordable housing, job skills training and employment, as well as access to healthy food. And so, these are the areas that we're focusing in on. We also have providers who have said that they were going to volunteer doing free dental exams, mammography for women. We're going to have HIV testing. I know Sister El-Amin, who's with Haymarket House, she said that they're going to bring out folks to do substance abuse screening. So we're really going to have a full gamut of health and wellness things. And the other couple of other unique things, though, that we're doing that I think distinguishes us from this being a health fair is that we want to introduce to the community at this time the different modalities that we're doing. So we already have folks who are going to do acupressure, they're going to do massage therapy, and we're still recruiting a couple of people to do yoga. We do have someone who's going to do deep breathing and meditation and possibly music therapy. But the music therapy, I know some of you all recall last year at the International League of Muslim Women's luncheon that Claire Takarabi, who was a Chicago Symphony Orchestra viola player and a neuroscientist at Northwestern, she did one of her presentations, and I don't think it's a single person in that room at that time who was not touched by the way the music it has such a healing effect. So we're going to try to get Claire also. We have been blessed by Allah to have acquired 2 vacant lots on the property. And it is now, I say it's a farm on steroids. We have 2 lots that are enclosed. And for the past month or so, they've been planting probably about 50 or 60 different varieties of fresh fruits and vegetables. I actually have a friend who has shipped some dahlias. And so they're now in the ground, and we have a relationship with Entrepreneurs Academy, which is coming in now, and once a week they do a drone photography class, and I'll talk about that in a moment, as well as they are helping us to manage the garden. So they put sensors in there to be able to detect the water moisture, sunlight, pH, and we are in the process of applying for money to enclose the garden, even though it is encased, I should say, by these pillars and covered with chicken wire to, you know, keep out some of the pests. But our goal is to actually have a large central space, which right now is just covered with gravel, enclosed and climate control. So we will be able to actually conduct some of our cooking classes there, or gardening classes, as well as use it for some of our modalities like deep breathing, meditation, yoga, acupuncture, massage, so it's really becoming just a true example of what we call Salam Community Wellness Center, a holistic healing space. So why are we doing this, and what happens after this, after the 20th? Well, we're doing this because the community needs it. For those of you all who know the Woodlawn community, it used to be the hub of where African Americans landed when they came up from the terrorism of the South. It is also the former home of our deceased brother, may Allah lift him up on the day of paradise, of Emmett Till. And so we have a lot of history there. This investment there, but also the vibrancy that that community brought to the South Side, because, many of our foreparents came up from the South, like I said, escaping the terrorism, but also they came up there with hope. But this was part of that area that was red line, and Black people were not allowed to move outside of those areas. So, in the 60s, when they removed those restrictions, I think we all had this idea, at least our people had this idea, well, okay, well, we can move anywhere we want to. But what ended up happening was that, the economy there that that was so thriving, it dissipated. It wasn't like we were able to take all of that with us and or leave it there, and people were going to automatically continue to have businesses and have doctor's office and lawyer's offices. Right down the street from Salam Community Wellness Center is the famous, what the famous Williams Clinic. And this was a whole family of Black doctors, and they had internal medicine doctors, pediatricians, they had surgeons, they had a pharmacy, radiology, gone. Because what has happened is that healthcare has become so corporate, or I call it corporatized, is that they're looking not to meet the needs of communities, they're looking to meet the needs of the stockholders. And so what ends up happening is, if you look where many of these major managed care organization, healthcare plans, they're not located in convenient places in our community. A lot of them are, like, you think about Advocate, I think about where one of their offices is located right on the edge of Evergreen and the city. And so I said to myself, why is it there? Why is it so far away from? And I'm sure there are many Black people, brown people who are signed up with that plan. It's because you go where the money is. And that's what they've done. And they've left our communities to the extent that many of our communities, Black around, are considered what the federally healthcare profession shortage areas and medically underserved areas. And we know that to be the truth. So back to our the Peace of Mind Health and Wellness program. We look at this as part of the movement of Salam Community Wellness Center, making sure that we are making healthcare affordable and accessible, and looking at it from a vantage point of a new model. Our plan, inshallah, is that this will not be a one-off, that we will be doing this on a monthly basis. We would like to start off staying in the Woodlawn area, because those of you who know the area know that it's very territorial. A lot of times people don't cross over certain lines. If you go from 63rd to 67th Street in King Drive, that's gang territory there. So safety issues. If you go that corridor where we are, where the health center is, if you go like from King Drive to Cottage Grove, let me tell you, you see it all. You see open drug sales, even though it's 4 blocks away from the 3rd police district, they ride right on by that. It's like a drive up drug system. We have a lot of homelessness, where people who are struggling with mental illness. We have prostitution. We have some gang activity, although, we're fortunate that Allah has blessed us to be, feel very safe, despite the fact that we know we're in a pretty much of a hotbed there. But we get to see all of it there. And of course, the disinvestment. But what Allah has blessed us to be able to do, Brother Akbar, Turret Akbar Muhammad, he's invested his own money to help to revitalize that community. I know many of you all have already eaten least heard of Let's Eat to Live restaurant, which is right next door to us. But Akbar has one of his laundromats there. And then there are some other retail spaces that really are mixed use spaces that are going to be available for affordable housing and retail. So, like I said, Allah has blessed us tremendously. And, why I was asking if it was okay to present that this is really in line with what our deans is. I mean, I think back to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they said that he couldn't sleep at night, because oftentimes, there were the people with the homeless, the infirm, right outside his door. And that's the way we look at it. These are our brothers and sisters. They're right outside our door, even though most of us who are affiliated with the health center, we don't live there, but we are part of that community. And that's our responsibility as Muslims, to be able to, where there's something in need and it's not there, it is our duty to create it, to address that need. And so we really are very blessed to have had this opportunity, even in the face of a pandemic. I mean, we really started with nothing but our faith in Allah. And so we have we have a diverse group of individuals on our board and with our provider group. And every day we are meeting more and more people who want to support and partake of this model. And so that's my presentation. I just hope that, that those of you who are on the call today that make dua for us, but also make a check. Is all we have a wonderful website, and it has donate on there very prominently, because we need those resources. And let me just say this before I open up for any questions. When we started, we knew that we were starting in a very critical time that we were all going through worldwide. But like I said, our faith in Allah, that we had to do something. So many of us are, in the health care field. And I know I personally felt helpless, like, so I can't, I wasn't in an age group where they would suggest I go on the front lines again. But I felt like there's something else that Allah has blessed me with, to be able to help to develop a program. And there were others who had a similar calling. And so it's very important, that we understand, though, no margin, no mission. So what we started out with donations from our own internal team. We've done and continue to do crowdfunding. We have been blessed from Allah to be able to receive some grants. We actually have a grant announcement that we pray Allah that we will be successful, that will help us with this, not only with this event, but also to help us to, continue paying, for lights, gas, whatever. Oftentimes people think, well, you have a health center, do you accept insurance, and that insurance is going to cover all of your needs. And I'm going to let you know that the typical reimbursement that we get from insurance companies only covers about maybe 25% to 33% of the actual cost. The cost for each patient services runs somewhere between $250, maybe $300, and that doesn't even include things like laboratory services. So I know you say, well, okay, well, if insurance doesn't pay for it, maybe people pay the difference. The law does not allow that if you are accepting Medicaid, doesn't matter whoever your carrier is, or Medicare, that you can accept a penny more. So you can see what the shortfall is, but yet we've been so dedicated and so blessed by Allah to continue providing services, even though there's a serious shortfall for every person who walks in the door. We have never in the 2 years and more, since we opened our doors, which is in January 2022, we've never denied a person care. That's a miracle. But that said, we can't go to ComEd, we can't go to Comcast and tell them, look, we need a discount here. So we depend upon all of us, not just a few, but all of us. Even if you can just give a certain amount every month, that means so much. When we receive money, and we have had donations through our crowdfunding. We use LaunchGood for much of our crowdfunding. We've had donations of $1. And I'm gonna tell you, I said, alhamdulillah, it was as if we had received $10,000, because those of you all who know LaunchGood, they have a very far reach all around that world. So whoever gave that $1, that may have been the equivalent to $1,000. So we say, alhamdulillah, thank Allah for whatever the giving that one gives. And think of it this way, that what you're doing is helping your neighbors. This is a form of sadaqah for you. And so we really implore you to, even if you can't give something, financially, like this event, inshallah, we're going to do it on a regular basis. This is a great opportunity for you to come out, do some volunteer work for us. And we're not going to work you to death, but all together we can help to build this. And this is part of the dream and the legacy of the Nation of Islam, the leadership of Imam Muhammad. I mean, this is the legacy of our ummah. And so, we just encourage you all to work with us, support us, because really this is all of our legacy. So may Allah bless each and every one of you all. And again, we pray that you will make dua for us and figure out a way to help Salam Community Wellness Center be around for the next generation and beyond. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Walaikum assalam.
Walaikum
assalam.
Thank you so very much for presenting on the history that you presented, the history of Salam. And so I do want to turn it over to our audience for questions. We do have a question in the chat. Brother Algie, would you like to come on mic and or camera? And
yeah, I'm Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Yeah, so I've been trying to connect with the Wellness Center on acupuncture. So I want to do acupuncture and massage there. And is it covered by flexible spending, or how do I need to get it covered by flexible spending so I can take my business to the Wellness Center versus anywhere else? And the second thing is, if you're looking for a yoga instructor, I have an excellent yoga instructor who does yoga for me in the Harvey Park district that we utilize on a regular basis.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, the flexible spending, for those of you all who are not familiar with that, this is a way that you can, it's usually through your employees, I understand, where your funds can go towards your health care outside of what would be considered like a traditional network. And yes, we do. We have actually someone who works with us to help to navigate people who need healthcare services. So, if you have some questions about, whether or not your particular plan will do that, I can connect you with her. And as far as the yoga is concerned, yes, alhamdulillah, we are looking for all kinds of practitioners because we have so many different events. And right now, for example, we just had a conversation with, and hopefully, inshallah, going to finalize this. We're working with an organization that's called Fathers, Families, and Healthy Communities. They're out of Bronzeville. There's a young brother, Brother Clinton Boyd, who is the CEO, and he wants to incorporate in his program, which is designed to help young fathers who are trying to, get on their feet, be better father figures, and to also incorporate in their current modules, which include focusing on legal aspects of, parenting, child support and issues like that, as well as job workforce readiness. And we just had a meeting with them the other day, and we're putting together a whole program on health and wellness, talking about what is health, what is wellness, what is the integrative model, what is it called? Mission, vision, and purpose. One of our doctors loves to talk about that. And then we're going to be introducing these different modalities. So we certainly need people who are flexible enough to plug into these different events, as well as, help us to round out our other services so we can have them on a more regular basis. So Brother Aldi, if you would just get in contact with me, I could put our information in the chat, or if you want, I can actually just give it to you. If you can go to our website, that's Salam, and you know how to spell that, cwc.org, SALAAMCWC.org. And you can contact us through there, and then we can go from there. Are there any other questions? And I'm going to put it in the chat anyway. Okay.
Okay, that's a good idea. Also, can you give the date again for the upcoming event?
Yes, the date is Thursday, June the 20th. And like I said, this is the inaugural one. We're trying to get representatives, our legislative representatives out. And as far as the subsequent ones, we haven't decided on a date, but while I am speaking about dates and upcoming events, we will be hosting our 3rd annual Health and Wellness Expo, Integrative Health and Wellness Expo, and that's going to be on Saturday, August the 3rd. The time will probably be like in the past 2 years from 10 to 4. And if those of you who are interested, if there are those who are interested in becoming vendors, please contact us. You can contact us through the website. And like I said, I just put it in the chat.
Dr. Shabazz, can you put that back into the chat? I think there was a digit left off.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, what is it? Oh, no. Okay. Are you looking at where I said contact, and was there an error there?
Yes. You have
I had
info at Salam CWC.org. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, pardon me.
Okay, no problem. And I can put our phone number there.
Okay, that would be great. Okay. Pardon me. So this is wonderful. So the event is going to be Thursday, June 20th.
Yes.
And what time? What are the hours?
10 to 4. Yes, 10 to 4.
10 to 4. Okay.
I just spoke to our mental health partner, and their time is going to be a little shorter. They're going to be there from 11 to 2. They will be doing screenings and also referrals. Our intent, inshallah, is to expand our mental health services because the need's so great. And one of the challenges that we have been faced with is something I'm sure you all are familiar with. People will tell you, they're giving away all this money. There's plenty of money out there. But it seems like when we try to find out where it is, it becomes very elusive. But this grant that we have just applied for, which is called Stronger Together, is money that has come through the the ARA programs, and they are looking at 4 different ways of expansion of mental health services. And so we've opted to look at ways of screening for mental health issues among adults and older adults. And so the beauty of this is that it's, when we found out about the grant application, that it's like Allah said, okay, here, this is your money, because it so aligns with what we are already going to be doing. But just to let you know, we have so much faith in the need, and that Allah will supply us with what we need, even if we don't get the money or as much money, that we're committed to this. We already have several community partners who have said that they would like to host this pop-up. And that's where I was saying we were going into different areas of the community because of safety issues, just people's comfort level. There are a lot of people who depend upon public transportation, and sometimes that's not the safest mode. So we want to make sure that we, as much as the law will allow us, be able to remove some of those barriers to keep people from accessing care. I'm just going to share a couple of stories. We have a husband and wife who come to the health center frequently looking for help, as well as we have to do some odd jobs around. And when I asked the husband one time, that's when it was really cold back in December, I said, well, how's your housing? And he said, he looked at me kind of hesitantly. He said, well, right now we've been living in an unheated garage for the past 4 months. So of course, that just shook me to the core. I said, well, why aren't you all going to one of these shelters? And he said, we don't have enough money to get there. And then he said that he and his wife were afraid to leave their stuff for fear that it was going to get stolen. So, I mean, these are heartbreaking stories. Young woman, Latino woman came in, I invited her in. She was at on the sidewalk. Looks like she was at the laundromat. And I said, yeah, come on in. And I said, yeah, we have things here, because even after that giveaway, we got generous donations from some other like churches and other organizations, charitable organization. And she looked at me and she said, well, why are you doing this? As if like, wow, wait a minute. Now I'm saying to myself, does it sound like it's like pay for play or something like that? And but you could tell that perhaps, people have been, how would you say, not abused, but exploited, and it turns out that she had come up from Puerto Rico to, take care of her father. Her father had recently passed, and the thing she asked me for was really surprised. She said, do you have a wheelchair? And I'm looking at her like, well, no, we didn't have anything at that time. And she said the reason why she was asking that was because she has a brother who she ended up bringing from Orlando, Florida, up to Chicago. And she said he has a very severe, debilitating bone disease that stunts his growth. She said, I'm walking around carrying him on my back. I said, oh my God. And then one other story, and I'm just sharing this with you all to know how serious things are out there and why this pop-up is so important. So this gentleman came in and he had one of those old school shopping carts. And so he was telling me that he had gone to the Social Security office in the area and that they told him that he's only eligible for $500 a month because he had been incarcerated. And so he didn't have enough quarters to get the maximum amount, which he said was going to be about 900 something. And so I said, well, sir, I'm assuming that you would probably at least be eligible for Medicaid. And he looked at me, he said, well, when they told me that I was not eligible for the maximum amount of Social Security, I just walked out of the office. And so this is just an example of the need and also the barriers, the shortfalls in the system and the desperation. Because it's one thing when you have a community that lacks resources, but as I told somebody before, when they said, well, what's the most serious problem that people should know about these communities is the lack of hope. Because when you have that, then all of these issues, you're never going to be willing or feel like you have the empowered to be able to address them. So that's why it's really important to, stay connected with the community. They now look at us as a safe space. People come in and ask all kinds of interesting things, but they really now are trusting us because they see that we're really there, that we hunker down and just say, hey, we're here to help you. And we're really looked upon as being an oasis, and we're lifting up the rest of the community along that corridor. We're getting a lot of attention in a very good way.
Your comments, Dr. Shabazz, are very touching. And the fact that Salam Community Wellness Center is able to be present for, just a lot of people who are falling or who have really been victims of discrimination, victims of discrimination in all forms, right? Healthcare disparities, economic disparities, housing inequities, all of that. And so I'm so glad that Islam Community Wellness Center can be present for that. But I have a question for you. In your
I
professional,
think that ended.
I'm sorry. In your professional opinion, what specific areas of mental health do you see as being quite vital at this time? Of course, mental health is on a spectrum and it's expansive, right? But based on a lot of what you shared today, what are particular areas that you feel would be paramount to provide the support and care for people in need?
Well, I mean, from a mental health diagnosis, top is depression, PTSD, and anxiety. And I mean, that's across all age groups.
I agree.
We have oh my God.
I agree.
So many people who come in there and talk about loved ones that they've lost. People who are still grieving from the loss of loved ones from COVID, never gotten it. Our children are so anxious that, their school performance is just off the chain.
Yes.
And so those are the main thing. And so again, it goes back to the lack of having adequate resources. They just talked about opening up one of the 17, 18, 19 mental health facilities that were closed down years ago, thanks to Rahm Emanuel. And so that's enough. So we don't have enough providers for the services. And that's what we're trying to do, is try to aggregate providers, mental health providers, so as we can serve, not as necessarily a direct provider of the services, because we can't be all things to all people. But one thing we're doing now is bringing on board different providers who may have like sliding fee scales or do virtual visits, who are dealing with our children, working with the schools, So we're trying to mix it up so that we don't leave anybody out,
Yes.
But so those are the three mental health diagnoses we see. But look, it's going to morph into many more if they don't get the services that they need.
I totally agree. We have another hand up. Just listed as Samsung. So if you want to come on camera or just mic is okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Something like the Samsung is Bashir Assad. I don't start doing that. I won't put my name up. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Constance. A very, very, very insightful presentation that you made, and a very significant work that Salam Wellness Center is doing. I'd like to make some observations in the mental health area, and there's a term recently going around post-traumatic slave disorder, and I came across, Allah blessed me to come across something in my research. I was listening, you talked about NPR. I was listening to NPR one morning and got just a little bit, said Benjamin Franklin was an abolitionist. And I wasn't aware that Benjamin Franklin had been an abolitionist. But he had joined a Quaker group, and they had took him to see some slaves. And he had the same concept that many of them had, that African Americans didn't have the same mental capacity as other people. But when he seen them in a situation where the Quakers were working with the slaves and the abolitionists process during that period of time. He became aware that the African slave had the same mental capacity as anyone else. But he made a very significant speech. He became president of that group. And it's called, and I would urge anybody working in that area of mental health, and especially with our people, to read this. But I'd like to read a small excerpt from that. And it reads, he says, slavery is such an atrocious debasement of human nature that it's very extirpation, if not performed with solicitous care, may sometimes open a source of serious evils. The unhappy man who has long been treated as a brute animal too frequently seeks beneath the common standard of human species. The galling chains that bind his body do also fetter his intellectual faculties and impair the social affections of his heart. Accustomed to move like a mere machine by the will of a master, reflection is suspended. He has not the power of choice, and reason and conscience have but little influence over his conduct, because he's chiefly governed by a passion of fear. He is poor and friendless, perhaps worn out by extreme labor and age and disease. Under such circumstances, freedom may often prove a misfortune to himself and prejudicial to society. So when I read that, I reflected upon what is occurring today among our youth. And sometimes, I'll say in our society, our culture, this situation has passed on from all the way from that period of time until today. And I believe these same circumstances are cause to what we're seeing, as you pointed out, what you see in that particular area of all the ills of society that are occurring. And, Imam Wardi Muhammad, he said, my focus is on the psychology of our people. Mm-hmm. And if we look at society too, quite often when they're given the measurements of who's doing the best in society, we end up on the lowest level in all of those standards. Mm-hmm. That was my reflection. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for sharing that, because early on, and Dr. Gloria, you might remember a conversation we had. I was really, really wrapped with the work that Dr. Joy DeBride has done. She's one of us that coined that phrase, post-traumatic slavery disorder.
That's right.
And so one of the things that we actually talked about doing, and inshallah, at some point in time, we will we will get beyond just survival mode rather, and get into that kind of deep entrenched issues that really are the root of why we're seeing these things. Right now, we're dealing with things more on the surface level. We're dealing with, has Maslow's hierarchy. We're at the physiological level, but really underneath that, we know the consequences that the hundreds of years of enslavement and systematic racism has had. We even talked about, there is a document that was put out by in Cobra that talks about the epigenetics of racism and its effects. And when they put that document out, a report that was actually submitted to the legislators in Washington, D.C., trying to put forth legislation that would pay for initiatives that have been found to be effective in changing that, that mentality. It's not that you're not going to, that it's not that they are saying from the studies that it's going to change the genetics, but mitigate a lot of these things that we are seeing today. And so inshallah, at some point, that maybe that would be the next group of people who take on Salam Community Wellness Center, because again, until we really get to the root of these things, the root cause, and apply those things that are going to mitigate them, then we're going to continue to see these behaviors for a while.
Yes, yes. Well, Dr. Shabazz, what a wonderful talk. I just want to encourage our listeners also to really consider being a recurring donor. Recurring donorship is important for programs to really to thrive. And just as we want our listeners, believers to become recurring donors at the masjid, we're also asking for Salam Community Wellness Center. No amount is too small. And one last thing is just knowing that having services like this in the community, aside from the fact that we know how important it is from a physical standpoint, but that mental and emotional support is absolutely vital. Until we address the mental health needs in the community, our communities, will continue to suffer. So thank you so much, Dr. Constance Shabazz, for your presentation about the upcoming event, as well as updating us on the workings of Salam Community Wellness Center. So before we conclude, yes,
Dr. Gloria, I want to add one other thing, an announcement. This coming Saturday, we have an event at the health center. Sister Sandra Washington, and some of you all may know her. She is a healthcare navigator, and she's actually doing a program from 10, I think it's going to be from 10 to 2 this Saturday at Salam, which is 613 East 67th Street. And she's actually going to be teaching people how to digitally locate information and resources on healthcare. This sister has done a phenomenal job in helping some of the believers to actually, get resources for their loved ones. And so I think this behooves us as a community to take advantage of these resources, because you never know when you yourself, your family members, your friends, your neighbors, even somebody you might not like, but you still want to help them, will need information on how to get the resources they need for their health care. Just like the brother was talking about the FSA, she has information about that. So please contact us. As I said, I put our website information there. That's our contact email information. And oh, you know what? I think I know what you meant, Dr. Gloria. I think I should have put, no, that's it. Go to, and Sister Basima. Yep. She said, okay, you know what I'm talking about, sister, right? So we want to utilize this sister's resources. She's really great. I was out with her yesterday. So please contact us, and please come by. Take advantage of this. It's well worth your time to do this, and it's free. So yes. Thank you.
And don't forget about the, pardon me, the June 20th event, and how important, that's going to be for Salam, as well as hopefully being able to really provide some wonderful sampling of services and insights about what we're doing at Salam.
Right.
And
that's free. It's free. And for the first 100 attendees, and please, if you don't need something like this, please let our brothers and sisters who need it receive it. We were blessed to have 100 what we call essential bags that contain, they're already in a little what do you call it, the backpack, toilet paper, paper towels, shampoo, deodorant, toothbrushes, toothpaste. These are things that people really need, and many cannot.
Beautiful.
So please, yes.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, we are wrapping up. And so as we conclude, I just want to remind everyone that this Talim, as well as past and future Talims and khutbahs at Masjid Al-Taqwa, are on our YouTube channel. So if you have not as yet, please subscribe, and so you can stay up to date with the workings of Masjid Al-Taqwa. Thank you so very much, and for listening. And we appreciate so much the work that Dr. Constance Shabazz is doing.